And now, the show for people who have a fantasy team, but no time to run it. Who were well prepared for draft night, but not for the weekly grind of a long season. It's The Cheat Code, a shortcut to Sunday excellence, starring fantasy guru Kenny Parker, and hosted by sports radio veteran Mark, the Phantom Lowe. So let's get to it. Here he is, the Phantom.
Thank you, Stones McCoy. Yes, it is me, the Phantom Sports Radio veteran, along with Kenny Parker, the fantasy guru, who has just arrived back from the Niner game on Sunday. It took a little bit to get him here, but we've got him here. He had some problems. Figuring out how to push his button, and now he is ready to go. Kenny, the stories that you told were horrific of trying to get back. Somebody put a shopping cart on the Amtrak line.
This is true. They had to cut it out. They had to cut it out.
Cut it out.
Yeah.
I like that.
At least we didn't derail.
And then they raised a bridge or something, and you couldn't go somewhere.
So they raised a bridge.
So how did you guys, all you fans coming back from the game, how did you occupy that? I will say 75-minute delay. How did you guys pass the time?
Lots of alcohol and some Bang Bang Niner Gang music to get us by. Soothe our sorrows on the way home.
You're talking about E40, right?
That's right.
That's my Vallejo homeboy. Well done. Well, we are back with the cheat code. That is Mr. Parker. He is the cheat code, also the fantasy guru. Just to know, you got up to 2-2 this week, right?
I did.
You won. I fell to 3-1, and that is my first question.
Right.
Would you rather? If you're going to lose in fantasy football, and we're all going to lose in fantasy football,
yes.
We are not promising that you'll never lose, okay? We're just saying probability-wise, we are going to help you. Would you rather lose the way you did last week, 170 to 160, or the way I did this week, 120 to 110? I sat there going, I don't deserve to win. I'm almost glad I lost, and I can't imagine you'd have that feeling about scoring 160. So I would think maybe my way is better.
I had to think about it because it's a good question, but I would say your way is probably better, especially if you've got a good team, because you can kind of just write it off and move to the next week. But when you do really, really well and you make all the right decisions and all the right pickups, and then you still lose, it's just so painful. So either way, I would be able to move past it because, like I said, you have a great team. You just had a horrible week, but it does make it easier. Like, you never had to stress it. You know, you really...
Yeah, you didn't expect to win. It's like, I don't care about what he does because I'm not doing anything. I did have to buy a bunch of new voodoo dolls this week for, like, Tyler Lockett.
Yeah,
I had to buy a Travis Kelce voodoo doll, and that was a tough purchase.
Yeah.
Nobody buys those. So, so now you're 2-2. I'm 3-1, and I did it the painful way. I did the easy way. You did it the painful way.
This is true.
Which brings us to our first, I call it our first segment. It's called Something Good and Bad.
Take the bad, you take them both, and there you have the facts of life. The facts of life.
Who left it on the field and who left it in the locker room. Time for Good and Bad on the Cheat Code.
I just was just enjoying the tune. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Stones McCoy, for that. Yeah, good and bad. Who left it? Who left it in the locker room? Who put it on the field? You got a couple for us.
Yeah, I'm going to start off at quarterback, and I wanted to highlight this guy, Sam Darnold, because he's been scoring a lot of fantasy points. He's Carolina's QB. He was horrible on the Jets with Adam Gase.
Yes.
He seems to be another one of those players that miraculously, once he gets away from Adam Gase, is a good football player all of a sudden. They did end up losing the game versus Dallas, but again, for fantasy, he went for 301 yards, scored 2 touchdowns, and he rushed for 35 yards and another touchdown. And he's now rushed for 5 touchdowns in the first 4 games, which is not sustainable. It's kind of crazy.
It's insane.
Yeah, it's insane, but it does show that when they get down there, especially with Christian McCaffrey hurt, I think he's going to get an opportunity again this week if Christian McCaffrey's out. If he's down there on the goal line and you have him in there, there's a chance he might run it in. It's just he's going for it. So, and he did some of that when Christian McCaffrey was still there. So I just wanted to highlight him. He's definitely a streamer. He's not a starter. But as you're looking towards bye weeks, keep watching Sam Darnold and how he's doing. And if this kind of stuff continues, he'd be a guy you can pick up and play in a pinch.
Nice.
The other guy I was going to highlight is the guy we talked about was Matt Ryan last week.
Oh,
yeah,
come on.
Not
for the good, I hope.
Yeah, no, he did. He did incredibly well. He did it on the back of volume, which we thought, they might. He threw all of his touchdowns to Cordero Patterson, which is probably why you don't want to hear about it.
No, because Cordero Patterson, all of a sudden, and this is something we should do in a future podcast,
right.
People totally playing out of position
right.
and getting credit for Cordero Patterson's a running back now? When did that happen? But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, Cordero Cordero Patterson scored 3 touchdowns, and that was 3 of them right there. But Matt Ryan threw for 4 touchdowns and 283 yards, and he even rushed for 17, which for him
Matt
is
Ryan?
like the greatest accomplishment in the history of fantasy
That's a
football.
100-yard game right
Yeah,
there.
so I was really shocked at that. I think I saw a highlight of it. I was like, what? It was on the screen at the Niners game. I was like, what? But anyway, he's someone that you can stream in good matchups. Matt Ryan showed us this from time to time. We kind of thought he was maybe left for dead, but this was a good test. He had an easier matchup. And so, again, not someone I would start, but in the future in bye weeks, we want to start highlighting these guys now for you. In a pinch, there's nobody left. You see Matt Ryan there, and he has a good matchup where you think he might throw a lot in a competitive game or a game where they might be just, down. I wouldn't mind plugging him in the right situation.
So you're doing the Thomas English muffin. You're looking in the nooks and crannies
That's
and
right.
finding us some guys. Everybody's going to play Mahomes. We all know that. But these are the guys you might play when you're in a pinch or
Yeah.
you're on a bye.
And the other guy I was going to highlight was Pat Mahomes, top scoring quarterback on the week.
Hello.
But you're going to play him anyway, so I'm not going to go too much into it. He scored 42.72 fantasy points.
Yeah.
278 yards and 5 touchdowns, and a bunch of them were to Tyreek Hill.
Yes, I noticed.
And it was funny because I changed my league name to I Hate Cooper Cup, and I was at the Niners game, so I wasn't watching football, and I kept getting updates. Tyreek Hill has scored a touchdown for I Hate Cooper Cup. It was great. So
yeah, it is great when you're
Yeah.
unless you have Travis Kelce who didn't get anything.
yeah,
so
but that's not going to happen
that's
very
not going to
often.
happen very often.
Yes. So those were the good 2 guys that are kind of borderline that really had good games come out of nowhere, and then Patrick Mahomes, doing what he does. The other guy we talked about last week was Kirk Cousins.
You loved Kirk Cousins last week.
Yeah, and I have him on my dynasty team, and for the first 3 games, he was very, very good, playing well, and I was actually, I think, still on the train when the first drive was happening.
Oh,
Yeah, or
Cleveland,
either that
Minnesota.
or I was just sitting down at the game and I was seeing what was going on, and he got the ball and marched him right down the field, 75-yard drive, touchdown to Justin Jefferson. I'm like, I am set. This was the litmus test. He's passing it, and then he didn't do anything else. So he ended up with 13.1 fantasy points, which was 203 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He's still a good play in matchups, but I would downgrade him versus bad matchups.
So he's not a QB1. He was kind of virgin on that QB1 designation after the first 3 weeks.
The thing is, he gets Detroit next, and I think they're a good matchup.
Right.
So, I may go right back to him there. Next, I was going to go to wide receivers.
Okay.
Tyreek, again, I'll highlight him. 11 catches, 12 targets, 186 yards, and 3 touchdowns. 47.6 fantasy points. He single-handedly won my week.
But let's take a second now. The couple of weeks before that, he hadn't been Tyreek Hill, right? And you were kind of wondering about him. And is there kind of a lesson in there that when you have the blue chipper of blue chippers, you just kind of let it ride anyway?
As I was going into the weekend, I was extremely confident that he was going to have a huge game.
Yes.
And the reason why is because he scored less than 10 fantasy points the 2 prior weeks.
Right.
And had some tit for tat on Twitter with another defensive player after one of the games. You just knew they were going to come out and target him, and they did right away. I saw big play to Tyreek Hill on my phone. I'm like, here we go, and it just kept going. Now, I thought Kelce would have like a decent game and at least get one of those touchdowns, but it fell my way. But I was predicting 25 points plus for him, and he came through. So the lesson is, when you have a guy who's a top 5 wide receiver, you always play him.
Just play him.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I am not doing, by the way, so
we'll talk about
later.
that.
Yeah.
Just go through these quickly. Debo, I was there for that.
Crazy.
He was the only guy that really did anything for the Niners, it seemed like. He had 12 targets, though, and he's been getting tons of targets. He got 8 catches on those 12 targets, 156 yards and 2 touchdowns. And one of them was a broken play where he was wide open because no one covered
all by
him.
himself.
But I will say this, as soon as he caught it in my kind of drunken haze as I stood from my seat,
Debo.
I said, oh no, it was underthrown. Oh, it's Debo. He's gone. Like no one's catching him because
he kind of slowed down at the end, though.
Yeah, but Debo has a nose for the end zone. Even if there's guys in front of him and there's nobody in front of him, he's gone. Like he just gets there. So guys who have Debo, he seems like the number 1 guy for Jimmy and Trey Lance so far. And I don't know who's going to play coming up, but if you have Debo, start him with confidence. The other guy that was good was DJ Moore, also over 30 points, 8 for 12, 113 yards, 2 touchdowns, and Sam Darnold seems to love him. And with CMC out, the whole offense is predicated off DJ Moore, it seems.
So is he ascended to that wide receiver 1 level?
Yeah, I would put him in my top 12 wide receivers right now for starting, definitely.
Okay.
And he's just getting everything. It's kind of costing Robbie Anderson and everybody else.
I know some people are wincing at the pain of that one.
I am personally.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those were the good, those 3 guys. The bad, one was a guy that we got a question about last week. The person had asked us, should I start Chris Carson or Mike Williams in my flex spot? And we said Mike Williams. He's on fire.
He is on fire.
He had 3 incredible games. He came out against the Raiders last night, and that was just a weird game. It was kind of like the Niners game. Like, neither team could really get anything going. Keenan didn't have a very good game, but Justin Herbert still was able to overcome with his tight ends and some other throws. Austin Eckler was great. It was just one of those games. So even though Mike Williams only got 1 catch for 11 yards, he missed like a 70-yard one downfield.
Right.
That it was actually a bad throw. Like, he was wide open, and he should have been gone. So, I would say 60% of the time that's exactly what would happen, and you would have been fine. But I would still go back to the well with him. I wouldn't write him off just because he only got you 2 fantasy points. The other guy that was really, really bad who lost me a matchup was CeeDee Lamb. And I was at the Niners game. I wasn't watching. I couldn't tell what was going on, and it was extremely frustrating because he got like nothing at first, and then he got 3.3 fantasy points early, and then he just sat there. And then he just sat there. And then he just sat there.
You shake your phone. I know it happens to me all the time.
Is this thing broken?
I got to refresh.
Yeah.
I got to refresh.
Like, something's wrong. Was there a lightning strike? I don't know.
Lightning delay.
And so I still haven't even seen the film. It's really early in the week. But what I take to happen is that he was triple covered and double covered. And Dak went to his tight ends. And
he loves doing that.
And the running game was going once again. And so CeeDee only had 5 targets. And he's worrying me a little because he doesn't have a ton of catches and targets. But Amari went out. Again, at the Niners game, I was like, this is great. He'll get everything. But I think having Amari back will draw some attention away from him.
Hopefully,
and then even Michael Gallup when he gets back. So I'm hoping in the future going forward, CeeDee will have a better time of it. I would never bench him. Again, he's someone you have to start in that offense.
It seems like the better Dallas plays, the fewer things he does, right? Because they're using, when they got that running game going, then they're going to use that a lot. And Dak likes his tight ends, too. He's got 2 of them, and he throws to all the time.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And he throws to his running backs sometimes, too. So you're right. Their offense seems to have changed a little this year, and everybody's kind of noticing that. But I do think there are brighter days ahead where they're going to have to throw. And you should be getting more points from the receivers in that.
Do you have some guys for us? I know we haven't been doing this for a while, but I think it's time to bring Picks to Click back because I think we need to call on your expertise and tell us, look into the future a little bit, give us your idea on who's going to – you're telling us who did great last week. Now it's time. We've given you a little bit of a buffer. Now it's time to tell us who's going to do it next week.
It's time for Picks to Click.
I love
that guy is creepy, but he's exactly right. He is exactly right. The creep guy, the creep meister, I think we call him.
So, we're back to it. I really wanted to highlight this guy. This guy was balling out last night. It was Hunter Renfrow for the Raiders. He's going against Chicago this week. They're soft in the middle. And he really seems to be like, if Derek Carr had a blankie out there on the field, a security blanket, he's just going to him all the time. And, when he made that hit on that fake punt and fire, I'm like, that's
probably my favorite play of football history.
Yeah, it was something to behold, a man like that doing that to another football player on the.
Well, the crazy thing was, if you watch him, when he first got wind of what was going on, it was like my dog when you open the refrigerator and she thinks she's going for the good stuff.
Yeah.
Because they got the head, and all of a sudden he just kind of looked and just took off. It was fantastic.
Yeah, no, he made a great play there, and he made a lot of great plays, and he was kind of their go-to guy until Waller got it going. So I've seen that. I've been watching the Raiders. Obviously, my wife and my in-laws are huge Raiders fans, so I'm always watching. And he seems to have ascended a little bit this year as far as being integral to what they're doing. And when he makes plays like that, the other stuff he was doing, he's bring him in even more. So I do like him against Chicago this week. All these guys in Pick to Click are kind of borderline guys that you might pick up off the waiver wire.
Not guys that you would always play.
Not guys that you would always play. So, they're not sure things, but I think picks to click. I think Renfro's going to have a good game.
Like a flex guy or something.
For
Are
sure.
you willing to say that Renfro is the poor man's Cooper Kupp?
Yeah, why not?
So that means you're going to like him for a while?
You're going to like him for a while.
Okay.
Yeah, you could put him in there. He'll score.
Who else is going to click?
I'm going right back to my man Kirk Cousins. I'm a glutton for
what
punishment.
are you doing? That reminds me of the time Stones McCoy, back on the old POS show, said Kirk Cousins was the MVP of the league.
Look, he's
And
going.
I think he said he was going in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I
He
think
still-
that's what he said.
He still could.
I think he's.
No, I did not. I never said he was a Hall of Famer. I did say he was playing at the MVP level, and if he continued that way, that would be a Hall of Fame career. But that's not what happened.
Okay, cut his mic off.
Yeah.
Who's the person who cuts his mic off?
Himself.
Oh, he is.
Yeah.
Cut his mic off because he has no idea what he's talking about. So try to convince me about Cousins.
Look, he gets the Detroit Lions, and they're
Okay,
they're
that's good.
They're horrible. He's going to be obviously upset. You know, how do you like me now and all that
Oh, yeah.
stuff. And I think Minnesota as a whole is going to be upset. And I think they're going to take it to Detroit after what happened to them. So I just if you picked him up and played him on my advice and now you're like, oh, no, I'm stuck with Kirk Cousins. He was horrible. And there's nothing else on the waiver wire that's any better.
Give him one more chance, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't be against putting him out there. I think he's going to click this week and bounce back and at least get you that 20 fantasy points we always talk about.
All right.
22 in the modern era. I also like Daniel Jones versus the Cowboys. As crazy as it sounds, you know, the Giants, they played well this past week with the rookie, Kadarius Toney. We'll talk about him later. But it's probably going to be back and forth. It's a division game. Cowboys are going to score points. Giants are going to be chasing. I do like Daniel Jones. He runs a lot. He has a nice rushing floor. I wouldn't be against putting him down there in a pinch in a deeper league if you have to go there.
I think Daniel Jones is the poster child for a segment I want to do sometime in the future. It's when bad teams happen to good fantasy guys.
Sure.
Because he's
He's
a
one of those
good
guys.
fantasy guy, but no one knows it because every time the Giants come on, you just click.
Yeah.
Turn the channel.
Yeah. It's not
All right,
pretty,
any more
but
picks
it's
to
good.
click?
Yeah, I went ahead and put Leonard Fournette in here. I'm probably going to
Interesting.
I'm going to regret that, I'm sure, but
You've got to be a little more positive. You were on the side of Kirk Cousins, but you're dumping a little Leonard Fournette
I know.
out
but
over here.
I just with Ronald Jones there and the way that the coach can't seem to lock onto one guy, it just seems that after the playoff run and the Super Bowl and all that Leonard Fournette did for them, he has ascended to the trusted guy for Tom Brady and for the coach there. So he's coming off a nice game. He had 20 carries for 91 rushing yards, and he had 3 receptions for 57 yards. So he got you that 17 fantasy points even without a touchdown.
That's excellent. Yeah, and didn't he change his number to number 7?
I didn't
I
see
love that.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
And he's going to play because Ronald Jones, whenever he goes in, fumbles.
Yeah, that's true.
And then he never plays again.
Then he's
Whatever
out.
game he's in, he has to sit it all out. Yeah.
Now look, Ronald Jones could get a hot hand, and Leonard Fournette could fumble it, and some.
Well, maybe, yeah, but
it could. But I just think like he's on a 60 catch pace for the year, which is what we want. He's going to get you at least some catches, which he seems to be doing every week. He's always involved. They're going to get down at the goal line. They're a high-powered offense. He's going to get opportunities. You could do worse than throwing Leonard Fournette in your flex if you're desperate.
All right, so that's your picks to click.
I just want to highlight one more thing.
Oh, boy, you got that glint in your eye. Watch out, Stones. Back off.
And this is serious stuff.
All right.
Okay, this is really
I
important.
could see it in your eye. I know.
This is DSTs.
Oh, man.
No one cares, really. But
yes, I think they do.
we talked about this last week, and we talked about the process. And I had advised a guy to drop the Rams and pick up the Bengals.
Yes, you did.
And then the Bengals came out on, was it Thursday night?
It was a Thursday against the Jags.
Completely laid an egg, got 1 fantasy point. And my man from Dixon Siders,
Yeah.
I forget his name, it escapes me, but
Steven Hernandez.
Steven Hernandez out there at home. I felt so bad. I sent him a message.
Why don't you Venmo him some cash or
I
something?
probably should have, but I just, before when I was preparing for the show, I went back and looked. I'm like, how did the Rams do? Because
That's interesting.
the
Okay,
process-
he would have gone Rams,
yeah,
sure.
the process is what really matters. And he dropped the Rams to pick up the Bengals, and I said that was a good play. And the Bengals were horrible. The game didn't go how we thought, but they
Not at all.
managed to get a point. The Rams got -1 point. So it was a net win.
Fantasy Guru, ladies
Yeah.
and gentlemen. Fantasy Guru saved him
So-
2 points.
Yeah.
Well done, Kenny.
So I feel the process was sound there. Again, Cincinnati was a horrible play. I was wrong. they were not the team to pick up. But the process was sound, and there are some DSTs I like to pick for pick to click this week. Vegas versus Chicago, Minnesota versus Detroit. I think they're going to be mad. And even New England versus Houston. Houston is a bad team, but they haven't been giving up a lot of points to fantasy defenses. But New England is a good one. And with Davis Mills at quarterback, I think Belichick, coming off that last game is going to be dialed in. So I like those 3 DSTs. I just wanted to highlight it for everybody listening at home.
Okay, I'm glad we
Mr.
indulged
Hernandez.
you so, we could get way behind on our schedule.
Sorry
but
about
that's
that.
okay. I don't mind. No, actually, I must say that I went to the streaming defense. Doesn't sound right. This week I picked up the Bears, and they got me, I think, 9 points.
It
And
happens.
So there you go. So you were right, sort of.
Right. The
but
process was right.
But I'm not giving you credit for
All
it.
right,
Okay,
okay.
that's your good and bad, your picks to click. It's time to find out who's hurting as we go to the injury report.
Who's hurting and if they're coming back. It's the injury report on the cheat code.
And that is the great Stones McCoy, of course. Just give me the basics on it. Meat and potatoes me. Let me know the injuries. I know we had a couple of big ones. We have big ones every weekend now. It's too bad, but we do. So give me those that are fresh, but also give me a couple of guys that may be coming back.
Okay, so I'll give you the guys that may be coming back first here.
All right.
Gronk, cracked ribs, punctured lung. They said multiple fractures, and he tried to play last week, which is crazy.
Of course, it's Gronk.
And now they're saying he's not ruled out yet for next week. I don't know if
if your lung is punctured, you don't play until they get that little seal thing, and they just or maybe
put it on there.
What's that guy? Ron, somebody with the Flex Seal.
There you go.
Get the Flex Seal
Ron
guy.
Popeil.
No, that's not the guy. It's a
It's
different guy. It's Ron Popeil's another guy. Come on, learn your infomercials. Anyway, you get there and you fix that, because I'm not letting a guy with a punctured lung go on a football field. It's like last year. Was it last year with Drew Brees?
Yeah.
How many ribs you fractured? Like 12 or something?
Yeah, and when it goes
but I feel okay.
Well, when it goes through the lung, but they're like, well, he comes back quick. It's like,
Well, yeah,
how
from
do you
your
heal
lung?
ribs faster? I don't, know what I mean? I don't know. But so I think it's unlikely he plays this week. But I know a lot of Gronk owners out there picked him up and were loving what he was doing.
If you're a Gronk owner, you play Gronk if you might play.
Don't drop him. And pay attention to the reports.
Right.
And, it's Gronk. He's crazy, and wants to be out there, and who knows. So I think it's unlikely he'll play versus the Dolphins, but he could. The other update I wanted to give was CMC. A lot of CMC owners out there.
Everybody, yeah.
Hamstring. They were starting to say he was practicing right before the game last week, starting to run a little bit.
Stretch out a little bit.
Stretching, who knows. We started getting rumblings, and now they're starting to say, well, maybe he'll be back this week. Again, I think it's unlikely, but he avoided that 3-week IR. So CMC owners, check during the week, see if he has a limited practice, even on Friday, and they say he's questionable. Don't, make sure you're paying attention on the day of the game to get him in there if he plays. Because if he plays, you always play him. Even though
if
he's
coming off a hamstring?
He's the greatest player in fantasy football. He could play one quarter and get you 18 points.
But the great thing about that is if he's slated, maybe he'll play this week, then he's definitely, if he doesn't, definitely ready for next week. And that's only 2 weeks missed, basically.
Yes.
So that's better. That's best case scenario.
Totally best case scenario. So, Chuba Hubbard is still there if you have him. I think he's a low-end RB2. He didn't do much this week, but he didn't kill you. He's going against Philly. They have some injuries on defense, but they're usually tough to run against.
Right.
So I see him in the realm of around 10 fantasy points. If he gets a touchdown, great. If not, you might be disappointed, but he's just kind of average. But CMC should be back after this week. The other two guys, A.J. Brown and Julio, are hamstring brothers.
Yes, hamstring brothers.
A lot of guys
in
have.
Tennessee.
Yeah, A.J. Brown, is a huge disappointment so far, and the longer he's out, it's just going to get worse. So I do not think he's going to be back, is what I'm hearing. There's no chance that he'll be back
for this weekend.
Yeah, they're going against the Jags, and they tried to get away with it last week. We're playing someone crappy, so we're not going to. And then they lost. To the Jets. So they may try to do that again, but I think Julio may push himself to get back, and I have him everywhere, and I need him. So I'm in that boat where I could play him or like a kind of an average flex play that I get off the waiver wire. I'm going with him. So any of you at home that have Julio, if he's limited Friday and they say questionable and he's active on game day, if it was me, I would play him. He could go out first play. He could. But the upside, he's just the only guy there.
But if he's your third wide receiver, say, and you don't know if he's going to play, and you can plug your fourth wide receiver in, who's probably decent, that's not just like a guy on the waiver wire. That's your next guy on your roster.
Right.
Wouldn't that still be a better idea, because you just don't know if the guy's going to stay in?
It depends. The one of the teams I'm in, my dynasty team, is not very good. It's kind of built for next year. I think I've mentioned that on the show before. So I'm a little overwhelmed by my opponent. There, I'm definitely playing Julio because I need the upside.
Right.
If I was in a matchup with someone who I think I can take pretty easy, then I might. No,
so you're going to play him against Stones then?
I'm playing against Stones this week. I think Stones is actually a pretty good matchup for me. I probably wouldn't do that there. I probably would play the floor play. But in this other team, it's my big money league. I think I have Jacoby Myers or Julio.
No, I kind of like Jacoby Myers.
Jacoby Myers, yeah, he's coming off a good game. He's a good PPR guy, but he still hasn't scored a touchdown his entire career. And, he's pretty much all they have right now. So I don't know. I'll see which way I go. But if the reports on Julio sound good, he's a guy that can get you 25 fantasy points like that.
All right.
So I still might lean Julio's way. So those are those two guys. Chase Claypool had a hammy. They held him out last week. Mm-hmm. It sounds like it was due to an abundance of caution. Sounds like he will be back this week.
Okay.
That's what they're saying.
Did he ask if Ben is still quarterbacking before he said if he was going to play or not?
Well, the funny thing is that Ben, now the coach came out this morning and said he has a hip injury.
Well, Ben has incredible a dozen injuries.
I was going to say, of course he has a hip injury.
He trots them out every week when the team loses.
He's 8 million years old, and he looks like he has a hip
Gronk,
injury.
so they're going, so what, dude?
I'd probably rather
I
play
only have
Gronk.
one hip. I'm doing it all.
Dwayne Haskins is the backup there, and I have Deontay Johnson. I don't have anybody else, but I have friends that do, and all of us are kind of like, maybe we'd be happy if Dwayne Haskins gets a shot here.
Okay, hold off on that because we're going to talk about something about like that in the Parker's process a little bit later.
Okay, and Rashad Bateman for the Ravens is coming back from a core muscle injury. He's the rookie that they drafted high. He could affect Hollywood Brown, although I don't think he will, but I think he's going to work back in. So we'll talk in the waiver wire. I won't mention him again, but if he's out there and you're a really strong team, you're 4-0, and you're a little thin at wide receiver, he's not a bad pickup to speculatively add to your bench.
Sure.
He could turn into something. He is talented enough. He could supplant Hollywood, but I do think Hollywood's playing so well right now that's not going to happen. But there's like a 10% chance.
Okay, 10%.
Pick him up and see what happens.
And if you got a good team, why not, just kind of, buttress your receiving core.
Now, 2 injuries that we have to talk about. They're huge, and this happened this week. One is Joe Mixon.
Oh.
He went down, and they're saying it's a mild ankle sprain. And this morning when I looked, he was week to week, possibly 2 weeks. And Dr. David Chow was kind of, I'm not sure, but they're saying that, so probably 2 weeks. And they were cautious with him last year, probably 2 weeks. As I was parking here, I checked again, and now he's been updated to day. And they have the long week coming off Thursday Night Football. So I do think there's a chance Joe Mixon plays this week, but I wouldn't count on it. If you can get Samaje Perine, who we'll talk about, and hold him and have that option in case Joe Mixon doesn't play, then that's probably a good thing to do. But at this point, I think he may end up playing. If he doesn't play, he's probably out a week most.
Okay, now when you parked your car here, did you valet it? Because I valeted mine, and I don't know that I'll ever see the car again because I think I got hoodwinked.
Did a dog jump in your car and drive it away?
Yeah. I just over the guy says, I'll take it. So I said, okay, here you go.
You got to look for stones.
He said, I'll put it back. He didn't have the Stones emblem on his shirt. I should have known that.
Some guy down the street.
Yeah, some guy's a really nice car right now. All right, go ahead.
The big injury, the biggest injury of the week, David Montgomery.
Oh.
I don't have him. I don't know if Stones doesn't have him. You don't have him. So I didn't even notice till I went to start listening to stuff, I want to say Monday, before Monday Night Football, because I wasn't watching football this weekend.
We got that, thanks.
Knee injury. Week to week was what they said. Their stupid coach who tries to hide and
Now that's good analysis.
Yeah.
Stupid coach.
He tries to not tell anybody anything because he thinks it gives him a competitive advantage.
Old school.
Yeah. Matt Nagy, I want to flip you off. But
okay,
anyways.
Don't do it, though.
This is a family show, but
it is.
He said we're not going to say till Wednesday, which screws everyone in fantasy football because we all do waivers on Tuesday. But it leaked out. It sounds like it's going to be 4 to 5 weeks.
That's what I saw, yeah.
Yeah, and if it's 5 weeks, then they have a bye. So the backup is Damian Williams. He's the ad. We'll talk about him in a few. But you're not going to have Montgomery for a while. So David Montgomery owners, you got to do something there.
All right, very good. There's your injury report with the guru, the fantasy guru, Speedy Kenny Parker. So it's time to move on to our next segment. We call it Waiver Wire.
When you walk through the garden,
Got a couple of holes in your roster? Get some help now with the Waiver Wire.
well, I beg your pardon.
I've got many holes in my roster. I do want to get some help. I don't think it'll be waiver wire. So, Kenny, give us a couple of guys that if you have David Montgomery, if you have one of those guys you mentioned it's not going to come back for this week or maybe a couple, who should we be looking at?
Yeah, Damian Williams is the guy. I'll just go ahead and go right into it because we just talked about David Montgomery. He's set to miss 4 to 5 weeks. He came in relief for David Montgomery. They were winning that game, so they were going to run a lot. But he had 8 carries, 55 yards, a touchdown, 2 catches, 15 yards, scored 15 points in a quarter. This is a guy,
Nice.
I picked him up, I want to say 2 years ago off the waiver wire, and he single-handedly won me a championship. He helped Kansas City win their Super Bowl. And he's older, he's 29, but he took the year off last year due to COVID. I think he had someone in his family that was immune compromised. And so I think he's fresh. And with this guy out 4 to 5 weeks, the schedule's not great, but they have a decent matchup this week, and I just feel like you should aggressively go after this guy. So everybody in every league, no matter who you are, I would use my waiver priority on him if I had the first waiver priority. In our league where it always resets, if I had the highest, I would put in for him.
He's the guy is what you're saying.
He's the glowing jewel. Now, like I said, Chicago's not a great football team. I really dislike their coach.
Yeah, we kind of got the
Right.
stupid guy, you mean.
Yeah. He's not using his rookie quarterback well, and he may be going back to Andy Dalton, which is even worse.
That would be even stupider.
Yeah, he's not the brightest. He could go to Nick Foles, and they have a tough schedule for running backs coming up. But you got a guy who could probably see between 18 and 20 touches a game, who has shown juice and, what we like to call primacy, a guy who makes plays all over the field, and he's going to catch some balls, break them. He's going to break a big play here.
Yep.
He's going to help you win games. He's that kind of player to me. I might be biased a little because he helped me win a championship, but I would go for this guy he'd be my top waiver wire pickup of the week.
Very good.
The other guy is Samaje Perine at running back. Joe Mixon's backup. He's worth a speculative ad. He should get all the carries in the passing work. The only other guy there is Chris Evans. We call him Captain America.
That's clever.
In Dynasty.
Very clever. You guys are some funny dudes.
He's horrible
Yeah.
because anytime you try to look up Chris Evans, the football player, it's like Captain America is dating, this starlet or whatever. And you're like, no, I just want to know about the Bengals running back, right? So,
You're
but
such a simple
yeah,
man.
I'm just saying. But he should get some passing work too. But if Mixon's out this week and you're stuck, grab Samaje Perine, throw him in there. He's going to get a bunch of work. Again, he could get 15 to 18 touches. The other guy I want to highlight is
Steve Rogers?
no quarterback Trey Lance, a.k.a. Trey Area.
Now I'm listening.
Yeah.
Here we go.
So I got to see this guy up close and personal. I'm really, really excited to have him on the 49ers. I've been looking forward to having him play.
With beer goggles on.
Well, the guys in front of us had those on even before the game started. 5 minutes before the game started, a guy screams out, "Put in Lance!" And we all laughed.
Tough room, yeah.
Right.
Tough room.
But in the second half, I hit the guy
I'll
in the
just tell you how wimpy that is. When I went to the Raider game, they had 4 people carried out before the game started.
There was
You
a
were there,
few at our
Put
game.
in Lance. Ooh.
There's-
Live dangerously, buddy.
I'm just saying, people want this guy to play, and I saw him play, and yeah, he's horrible for real football.
Well,
I'm
he's not horrible.
Yeah.
He has horrible moments, but he's a rookie.
It's funny because I still talk to 49ers fans, and they're like, well, I hope Jimmy's out this week. And I'm like, do you?
Do you really? Yeah.
Most of his production came on that 70-yard touchdown we talked about with Debo. It was a broken play. I could have made the throw, and that's not an exaggeration this
No,
time.
I've seen you throw.
You could make it. Stones could probably make it. We could all make it. It was just,
Stones could probably.
yeah,
make
it was like 30 yards. No one
I
with
could kill it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Stones, I know you can make it, but no one within 25 yards of Debo. So he just couldn't throw very well. He ran a lot for over 40 yards. I think he rushed 7 times. Here's the thing. As bad as he was for real football, he did lead them back to get some kind of chance. He seems to be able to make timely big plays, and he's rushing. And he scored 24.4 fantasy points in one half, playing very bad football.
Which is insane,
Which
right?
is
yes.
insane.
Yes.
So that just sets off in my mind like, whoa. If this guy gets in there, it's just like Jalen Hurts, last year, or Taysom Hill last year. When you run that much, it's such a floor for quarterbacks in fantasy. And he has shown, even in the preseason, he'll like throw it at the ground and then hit the guy with the radar dish, and then he'll throw a 60-yard touchdown. It's like no rhyme or reason.
That's what you get the point.
Yeah,
So.
he doesn't give up, and he's still learning. So, but he has the talent to make these big, huge plays. So, I think he's worth a speculative ad on your waiver wire, especially like a team like Kyle, your son. I think he's already off the waiver wire in our league. Yeah. But someone out there who's 4-0, 3-1, and you're feeling really good. Your one loss was a fluke, and your team's stacked, but you have an extra roster spot to play with. Maybe grab Trey Lance, and see what happens, especially if you're a little weak at quarterback.
I like it.
Those were my that was my QB to pick up, and then I was going to go to wide receiver. I'm just going to run through these.
You got to go through them quick because I got lots more for you.
Okay, Kadarius Toney is the guy that I wrote down. He's only 3% rostered. We're going back to the well with the New York Giants receivers. He's their first-round draft pick, okay, and he came out this week and he got 9 targets, 6 receptions, 78 yards. He scored 14 fantasy points against New Orleans. As long as Sterling Shepard is out or Darius Slayton is out, it allows him to get on the field and show what he can do. If I think they're going to be out this week again, I do think that. I do believe that. If he can do that again, and it's against Dallas in a shootout, if he can make some plays, I say he wins at least a shot at the starting wide receiver 1 job. He's a first-round draft pick. They invested a lot in him.
I hope so.
They want him to succeed.
Yeah.
And he seems to have a connection with Danny Dimes. So, like I said, he was heavily targeted in the game the Giants won. He's worth a pickup. He'd be the number 1. The other guys, I'll just flash through them. Emmanuel Sanders, he's going against the Chiefs. Just like Cole Beasley, he's getting targets. You can throw him in there. Curtis Samuel has come back for the Washington football team.
Very good.
Logan Thomas is out with an injury, and he only played 37% of the snaps this week, but that was working him back in. He got 4 targets in just those 37%. I think his snap share rises. I think his targets rise. Curtis Samuel is a good ad if he's out there. Jamison Crowder gets the Falcons. They're horrible. So you can always play a receiver against a horrible team. He has Elijah Moore coming back from concussion. We don't know if he's going to play this week. We don't know how that's going to affect Crowder. But I think if you're desperate, Crowder's worth throwing in. And the old man down the road, A.J. Green.
Oh, man.
Who's kind of
killing me.
He's killing you. 6 targets every game for Arizona. And targeted in the red zone and targeted downfield. And seems to be pretty good still.
Yeah,
as crazy
he actually
as it sounds.
didn't look like his old self, but close to his old self. Yeah.
I have a team that's really weak at wide receiver, and I'm kind of eyeballing him as just someone I can grab for bye weeks. Or when I'm desperate from injury. There are worse guys you can throw in there that'll get 6 targets from Kyler Murray in a great offense that's averaging 30 to 40 points a game. I think A.J. Green is worth an ad. And at tight end, Dawson Knox for the Buffalo Bills. He's 47% rostered. 8 targets, 5 catches, 37 yards, and 2 TDs last week. He seems to be getting involved in the offense. They have the Chiefs. They're 30th versus tight ends. They're not a good defense.
Right.
It's going to be a shootout. I think you could do worse than throwing Dawson Knox. If you're the Gronk owner and there's nobody out there, or it's just streamers out there, he's the best streamer this week.
Yeah, he's moving his way up almost to tight end 1. Okay, so if you've listened to us for these 38 minutes, you probably wonder, I wonder what's inside that guy's brain. He's just spewing garbage and calling people stupid. We have a segment that lets you look kind of inside of his head.
Inside the mind of a fantasy guru. It's time for Parker's Process.
This is one of my favorite segments where we kind of look inside and see what makes Kenny Parker tick. It was beer this weekend, but we're going to find out what it is today. Now, I wanted to take a look at what happens when a quarterback goes down or gets replaced, what happens to the value of his wide receivers, but I don't think we have time for that, so I'm going to table that for next time because I want to go one of the great icons of fantasy football history. One of the great things is the hookup. Now, the hookup was invented by me in the mid-'80s, and I'll tell you, I said I was, in a fantasy draft, one of the first ones ever probably. And I say, for some reason I have Steve DeBerg on my team. I don't know why, but I do. And I want to, wait a minute, I have a chance to get Kevin House, the wide receiver for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Wait a minute. He's on the same team. So if they connect, I get double points. And the hookup was born, brother.
Beautiful.
1985-ish, I'm going to say. Steve, now I wish it was Johnny Unitas and Ray Berry or somebody,
Yeah.
or Jerry Rice and various
Montana.
quarterbacks or whoever. But it wasn't. It was these guys on Tampa Bay. So there and then I invented the hookup, which is simply having a quarterback and a wide receiver on the same team. I've tried to get as many hookups through the years as I can.
Right.
You know, it doesn't always work and everything. But I've lived with this invention in my own mind for a long time, over 35 years now, Kenny Parker.
Right.
So I'm asking you, first of all, you're the expert. Is the hookup really a thing? And how do you figure it out? And, does it affect the way you draft or trade or your waiver wire? And then we'll go ahead and name the top 5 hookups in the game today, if it really exists.
It does exist. The kids these days are calling it the stack.
The stack.
We here at this show call it the hookup.
Thank you very much.
And,
Yes.
I dig the hookup.
The hookup is where it is.
Hopefully hook you up with some points, but it definitely is a thing. Here's the question. Is it the best thing?
That is exactly the question.
The jury is still out, even for Mr. Parker. Okay, I used to.
Wait a minute, even for Mr. Parker?
That's me.
At least you didn't call yourself the guru, so I guess
No,
that's
I would
okay.
never do that.
Okay.
Look, I'm still learning like all of you, and I do not know everything or what's going to happen. I just do my best. But when I first started playing fantasy football and started to get good at it, I would avoid stacks because I felt like if they have a horrible game, I'm going to lose.
Sure.
And I was very risk averse, okay? And I think when you're new and you're playing, you play kind of safe.
Very conservatively.
Some
yes.
people don't. Some
Yeah.
people are crazy, and that's probably better. But I was risk averse, and I like to split up my risk. You definitely do that if you don't stack. But when you do stack, you maximize your upside.
Yes.
And you're right. If Steve DeBerg and what was the receiver?
Kevin House.
If they had a good game that game, and he's their best receiver, chances are you're going to get a touchdown. And when that touchdown happens, you get, instead of just getting 6, you get either 10 or the 12 in the
double
6.
points.
Yeah, double points. And it's just like ding, ding, ding. And you get the passing yards and receiving yards, and your score just goes disco, and you win more often than not.
The only problem was I didn't get an alert on my phone in those days.
No.
I actually had to go to the payphone down in the corner, and they would call me and say, your guy scored.
Well, that's
because
better.
we didn't have phones.
That's better than I thought. I thought you would get like a mailing a week after
Well,
that would tell you the results after your next game was already being played.
I remember the call. Hello, this is Mr. Alexander Graham Bell. Is this
Right.
Phantom? And I said, yes, it is.
The
and
operator.
Eddie told me, and he said, guess what? DeBerg and House hit again, bro.
Woo!
Hey.
So it's a thing. It's a thing that I do a lot more now. In best ball leagues, you have to do it. Those are leagues where you just draft your players and don't set the lineups. But in a normal,
I see. Just kind of a cumulative thing.
Then you have to do it. So that the data is there for that. The data for normal redraft leagues where you draft everybody and then it ends and you lose all those players and you redraft again the next year. There it's kind of up and down, but I would say the data is pointing more and more to you want stacks and you want them on good offenses.
Right.
On teams that are going to win a lot of games and put up a lot of points. More often than not, you're not going to get crippled by your stack. So that's kind of what I do, and that leads me into the top 5 stacks.
I do. You go ahead and do yours, or I'll tell you what we'll do. I got to look up my top 5 because I got them right. No, there they are.
Do you
right
want to
there.
go first?
Well,
and say if I agree.
What is your number 5?
My number 5 is
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews. And
Interesting.
I picked this one last because it's one that hasn't been great this year. But the floor is there. I have Lamar and Mark Andrews in my big money league, and I'm 3-1. And Lamar's had some big games, and Mark Andrews really hasn't. He's had some so-so games, but they haven't killed me with that stack. And I feel that they're at that bad baseline right now, and they haven't killed me. And when they go crazy,
you'll be right there.
I'm winning.
Okay.
So I think Mark Andrews has a 2-touchdown game coming. When that happens, see ya, whoever I'm playing. So they're my number 5.
Okay.
Who's your number 5?
My number 5, I went the same kind of formula. I wanted to reward people that have been great so far. They're not going to be great going forward. You'll figure out why. It's Brady and Gronk.
Oh, yeah, that's a great
I said
one.
they were, it looked in the first couple of games that they played together, not only were they working, but he seemed to be looking for him more and more. And so to me, that's a real comfortable one. Now, there's another one that's more comfortable historically, but that one is really
that's a good
comfortable
one
to
for
me.
5.
So I went Brady and Gronk.
Yeah,
so
and if it's a Super Bowl, it's assured.
What do you have for number 4?
Number 4, I went with a quarterback that's been a little up and down, but is always good, and Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams.
Okay.
I mean, Devontae Adams, it's just like swoon. I never get him. I always want him.
I know, it's terrible.
And I just can never pull the trigger in draft season. I've never had him on my team. I've played against him plenty of times, and I've cried plenty of
times.
Plenty
yeah,
of tears when Aaron Rodgers throws 4 touchdowns and 2 or 3 of them go to Devontae Adams, and they're deep. And it's just they are the touchdown hookup for that team. Aaron Jones, the running back, could have a big game and score 3 touchdowns. That happened one of the weeks this year.
It happens, sure.
It happens, but more often than not, they're going to get you at least 1 touchdown, and they're a very high-level stack to me. Aaron, like I said, is a little up and down, but Devontae's always going to deliver floor. So if I have to count on those 2 players going into a given week, I'm pretty confident.
Pretty good choice.
Who's your number 4?
Maybe not high enough is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
My number 4 comes out of to us out of Buffalo. It's Mr. Allen and Mr. Diggs.
That's my number 3.
Yeah, so that's where I'm going. Obviously, kind of new on the new in the scene because Josh Allen just kind of ascended. We knew Diggs was good. He comes over from Minnesota, and they just click.
Yeah.
For whatever happens, or maybe it's not even clicking. It's just Diggs got there at the perfect time because Allen is ascending, and he just took Diggs with him for whatever reason. That's my number 4, pretty easy pick. So that's your number 3.
Yeah.
So we'll go to my number 3, which is I hate to take this one for you, but it's Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp.
Oh, man, I almost forgot about it. I probably didn't want to go there.
It's a new one.
They're not on my list.
It's a new one, but I tried to do like a combination of historic and right now because right now is important to people, obviously.
Right.
So I went to Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, I mean, that might be the best one right now. So I think that's a great pick. They're not on my list, but it's probably due to my hatred of Cooper Kupp at the moment.
At the moment.
Yeah, I'm sure I'll love him again.
What do you got for number 2?
Number 2, I went with one that should be near and dear to your heart, and it's because I watched that game last night, and I was like, damn, this kid is good at football. And it's Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen.
Oh, no. I have to disagree with you.
Faithful. Now, if you had Justin Herbert last night, let me paint a picture. You had Keenan, and you needed 22.5 points.
Or 21, 22.
I think
23.
I figured it. It was 22.5.
Yeah, so yeah.
Wasn't a good chance that was going to happen. But if you would have got a touchdown and he had a really big game, it could have. But look,
yes, it could have.
The Raiders have a great pass rush. They shut down. They bracketed Keenan, and they really shut down Mike Williams. Keenan at least gave you, what, 10?
I think I got
9 or 10.
I think he had 7 or 8 catches for like 38 yards.
Yeah,
something.
which, okay.
Yeah.
That is bad for Keenan.
That's
but
bad for a human being.
But for a wide receiver, one of your 3 guys that you're playing with your flex,
yeah,
doesn't destroy you. And,
really?
Well, there were other things that happened in your matchup.
All right.
Right? That's a given. And
Fair
if
enough.
you would have had Justin Herbert, he had a great game. So they're another one of those combinations.
Yeah, I see where you're going on that.
The floor, when you're playing both of them, that's the kind of thing we want to look for. Keenan is not going to get a ton of touchdowns this year, but he's certainly capable of giving you 14 catches for 150 yards in a given week, with Justin Herbert throwing multiple touchdowns and throwing for 300 yards and giving you a little bit of rushing. They have those huge upsides if they both hit. I would not be unhappy if I had Keenan and Justin as a stack on my team right now.
No, it would
I'd
not
be
be
feeling
unhappy
pretty
at all.
happy.
But
Yeah.
I will say that
They're a safe stack. That's
another idea for a future topic is good players who disappear when they get in the red zone. Keenan Allen, as soon as they get inside the 15, I turn the TV off because he's not going to get looked at. They're going to look at somebody else. I don't know what it is.
He was a little better last year in that regard. But normally he's 5 to 6 a season, and that seems to be the way it's going so far. I will say his quarterback is better than when Phillip Rivers is there, and I think the touchdowns start to come a little.
Okay, my number 2 is probably your number 1. It's Mahomes and Travis Kelce.
Close.
Well, that's my number 2. I don't think you need to explain
that's
why
my number
that is.
1 and number 2, too.
Oh, I thought you might throw Tyreek in there.
Well, yeah, no, Tyreek is my number 1 with Mahomes. My number 2 is Kelce with Mahomes.
Oh, I see. You did 2 in the same guy.
It's like 1A and 1B.
That's very well played, my friend. Well, my number 1 is one you've already mentioned before because I had to give it to them because they've done it for a while, and that's Rodgers and Devontae Adams.
Okay, yeah.
So I put them as my number 1.
Yeah, and so everybody out there, what we're talking about is nice, safe, high floor week to week and insane upside.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the Packers and the Chiefs give you that. I think the Packers are a little bit easier to take out of their game based on how big the game is or what defense they're playing. So I would put them a little bit lower on the list, but they're definitely in my top 5 and probably should be higher than where I put them at 4. And Tyreek or Kelce with Mahomes. You have that stack on your team. Anyone who plays you that week is scared out of their minds on a given week. You don't want to see that. across from you.
Mahomes and Kelsey last week. All right, great job.
Well,
on that.
hold on. I just got a quick question.
Sure.
Was there a Seattle take on the? Was there a Seattle stack on in any of your guys' top 10?
There was
Yes.
a Seattle stack that was nibbling at my top 10, but then I noticed that he also was on the side of a milk carton. So Mr. Lockett was missing. He had disappeared. He's on some ABC show. They're trying to find him. So no,
Fair
thank
enough.
you, no.
Fair
And,
enough.
and mine was Metcalf, based on his draft and what we think he's going to become this year and what he really is really talented. He was definitely in my top 10. He was just outside my top 5 with Russ, because when they cook, I think
Yeah.
it's coming.
That's
But they're a
fair to
little
say.
too inconsistent. They're up, they're down.
Just had to ask, guys.
No, fair to say. Thank you, Stones McCoy. Well done on the Parker's process. Got us inside your brain a little bit. So let's go on and go to our last segment of the show.
Want to know what your best lineup is this week? Well, all you got to do is ask, who should I play on the cheat code?
Yeah, who to play on the cheat code. This is the segment that gets their blood boiling, because this is where you make your money, my friend.
Yeah.
This is where the fantasy guru pulls out his guru cap, puts it on, and we got questions for you. My first question, I'm going to lead it off if I can, and it's kind of a who to play thing, but it's more of a kind of a combination process. Now, as we've talked about many times, I have a great receiver core on my team, right? They were horrible this week, but I have a great receiver core. But there's one guy on my receiver core that this week I saw a lot of their game because they played the afternoon game on Red Zone, and so there's not as many games, so you see him. And I watched Denver for a long time, and it became very clear to me watching it that both Teddy Bridgewater and Drew Lock are unaware that Cortland Sutton is on the roster.
Right.
So that's something they have in common.
Right.
And my question to you is, you watch it, and this happens to every fantasy owner. You always watch a team for your own guys, but sometimes you watch it and you go, not only are they not getting anything, but I don't think they're even involved.
Right.
So how long does it take before you say, well, that's baked into their team? I got to kind of look elsewhere.
Well, and I think it's great what you just said, because you watched the game. And when you watch a game with your guys on it, it's different than when you watch highlights or you're on Red Zone and they're just showing you the good stuff. You really start to get a feel. And someone like you that knows so much about sports and football probably sees even more than the average person. I know the more football I've watched as a fantasy football player, I've gotten better at it. But you're right. You can glean more during those things, and you should weight what you saw a little bit more than what you see on Red Zone. I will say, like you said, we're very emotional about our team. And we're like, what? How could he not see him? But the truth is that Teddy's not one of the best 15 quarterbacks in the league. He's very good backup who can play well in spots and is accurate, but he's not a great quarterback, and Lock's even worse. And so you're right. Like, I have Cortland Sutton, too, on my dynasty team. I have to kind of play him because my choice is between him and Robbie Anderson. And
it's two huge disappointments.
Yeah, and maybe I'll go back to Robbie. I don't know. I think I erred on the Robbie side this week because of what their team was saying about getting him more involved. And so I went that route, and I don't think it made a difference. I think they were both bad. And sometimes that happens, and that makes it even better. But it's true. When you're watching, you'll glean more. So people out there, if you see your team and you really get a feel for that player based on what you saw in the offense and everything, and you're hearing different stuff from podcasters like me or, the pundits on ESPN, you go with what you saw, because more times than not, that's worked for me.
And you really, you're watching it from your heart.
Yeah.
Not with your eyes, but your heart.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Stones McCoy, you're the announcer for this show. Why don't you take over and let us know if we have some questions in this Who Should I Play segment?
Well, we do have some questions. Let me start off with the very first question that came in to me. If I can find it, I will pull it up. So we have a question about a flex spot.
Okay.
Mike Williams versus Chuba Hubbard.
Right. This is a good one.
That's easy, isn't it?
Is it? I mean, I'm
what
thinking Mike Williams. It's a no-brainer, right?
That's what I said when I first got it. I'm like, well, I want to highlight this because I've heard this from a few people. I didn't hear it from Stones, who has Mike Williams, and it's probably a little bit better. But some novice players I know are like, so I should bench Mike Williams this week, right? And I was like, no. And they're like, but Chuba Hubbard was the big pick. And I go, did you play Chuba? Well, no, he was on my bench. Did you look at how many points he scored? Okay, Chuba Hubbard is going to be very average in a good matchup against the Cowboys in a high-scoring game. Yeah, he could bust a touchdown, but I think it's more likely that Mike Williams, even though he's going against Cleveland, the coaches are going to go back. They're going to see what they did. They're going to make adjustments. They're going to game plan for Cleveland, and he's just too good. Those 3 great games outweigh this one kind of weird game that unfolded, against a division rival on Monday Night Football, weather delay. Things were just strange, and the whole game was strange and got off kilter. And when that happened, again, when you watch the whole game and see, it was kind of odd. Mike Williams should have had a touchdown that was 80 yards, and more times than not would have. You go, okay, I can throw that game away and go on. So, yes, when I actually checked my rankings, I have Mike Williams 27th this week for flex. That's against everybody that you can put in your flex. Tight ends, running backs, and receivers. I have Chuba at 42. So,
there you go.
But
answers the question.
I will say I looked at my projected points. That's about a 2.5 point projection difference. Okay, so I have, but that's a lot as far as projections go. It might not sound like a lot, but I have, Mike Williams at like 17 points and Chuba at like 14.5 or whatever. So, yes, Chuba could score more than Mike Williams, and rankings are just rankings, and you should always go with your gut. If you have a really, really solid team and you're playing another team that you should crush, and you're scared of Mike Williams, and you want to put in Chuba Hubbard because you know he's going to get you 8 points and that's enough, okay, maybe. But I would never do something like that. I would play Mike Williams with confidence here to the person asking this question.
So that is something that novice players, you could charge them for this expertise. Those are the people that should be listening to this show right now because you're giving it away for free, my friend. I commend you on that.
I think he is charging them. Just he's not
I
telling.
think you probably,
He's not telling.
No, I don't do that.
Except for Steve Hernandez, who's just asked for his money back.
Yeah,
so.
Steve would be charging me after what I did to him last week.
This next question comes in from a 12-team league, and this is an interesting question. It's 2 parts.
Okay.
One is should I be concerned about Miles Sanders?
Ooh.
That's first part of the question, and then obviously the second part has to do with Miles Sanders, and it's the second RB2 slot. Is it Miles Sanders on this team, or is it J.D. McKissick?
Ooh, Smooches, as he is known.
I don't think anybody calls him that.
He has Kiss in his name, so
Okay.
that's
All right. Sometimes you don't charge for that.
No.
That's not.
I will be calling him Smooches on the show, and I
so
will not be
what-
apologizing.
No, I
So
like
will
that.
I now. Yes.
So Smooches, especially Antonio. Let me backtrack. Okay, the first question: should you be concerned about Miles Sanders? Yes.
Okay.
I believe you should be very concerned. One of the reasons is this guy named Gainwell, who's also on the team and seems to be rising. He's their rookie, and Miles Sanders has made some bad comments in the press about he's not getting the ball enough and how the Eagles should run the ball more. He's disgruntled. And then he got even, not a lot of work again this week after he made those comments.
Yeah.
Gainwell got more. Gainwell's got some juice. I'm very concerned about Miles Sanders. That being said, he's still a good guy to throw in there in a floor play. And I forget, they're going against Carolina. Which Carolina team is real? I'm not 100% sure.
Well, which Carolina defense is real?
Yeah, but they got beat up on a little bit this week. So it's still early in the season when we talk about what's real, what's not. I agree with you. I think they have a good defense. It just might not be as good as we thought, or they just had a down game against a good team. But I would not be confident starting Miles Sanders till I see something different.
Yeah.
And that goes to the second part of your question, which was
who
was the second running back?
Yeah, he's looking for
Smooches.
looking for an
Smooches.
RB2. His RB2 is either going to be Miles Sanders or J.D. McKissick.
Okay, and I don't know how I forgot that, but the one thing I will say is that Antonio Gibson is dealing with an injury now. It is a rib injury, and I'm trying to pull up McKissick just to see. Here he is.
So is he the guy that's going to step in then if Gibson can't go?
There's another guy there who'll take some of the running load, but I think they'll lean on McKissick more.
Okay.
And let's just take a look at again, it's really early in the week, so not all my stuff is done. But, yeah, Smooches, he went for 0.8 points in week 1, 20.3 in week 2, 5.8 in week 3, and nearly 17 last week.
Yeah.
And Antonio Gibson, I think he also had a lower leg injury. I don't know specifically what it is, but he has that and the ribs. And I think he's going to play this week, but he may be somewhat limited. So it's against New Orleans. They're tough to run against, so you may want to throw some passes against them. I do not think Washington's a very good football team. I think New Orleans may win this game, and I think that bodes well for Smooches. So if it was me,
Okay.
Well, that's what we're asking.
And I'm-
What
We're
are you
asking
doing?
the guru.
and you're in a full PPR league, that's key.
Yes.
I would put in McKissick, a.k.a. Smooches, and I would be not happy about it, but I'd be holding my nose.
Okay.
I don't like either option. But if it's not full PPR, I would probably roll with Sanders and pray to the gods that the coaches see fit to have him reestablish himself. Hopefully he has a good week of practice and he's being a good guy and being a team guy and they get him more involved. But I don't think that's going to happen. I'm very worried about Sanders, and I'd rather just hold off and wait till I see a change, then put him back in.
Just go with Smooches.
Go with Smooches. Okay.
It's close.
So, I mean, I got to tell you a story for my son, Zach, who listens to this podcast. He downloads it the next morning at work. He's a big Kenny Parker fan. He and I were watching Red Zone. I think it was week 1. It might have been week 2. And we're watching the Eagles, and some guy made a touchdown. And I go, who's that guy? And he said, it's Gainwell. Who the hell is Gainwell? I don't know. I've never heard of him. Look him up. So and he did that thing where he goes, you know something? I'm just going to pick him up.
He's good.
No one's ever heard of him. I'm going to pick him up. He went to pick him up. Somebody in our league drafted him.
Yeah. No,
He was the 6th-round draft choice for the Eagles, and somebody drafted him in the draft.
Yeah.
Who do you think that was in our league, Kenny Parker?
if I had to guess,
Let me give you a hint. Your arch rival.
Kyle?
Nope. Who's the guy?
Oh, Wendy Nathan.
Who's the guy that took your money?
Oh, not that guy.
That guy.
Well, once again,
The Champion League.
the luck of guys that don't pay attention.
He has no idea what's going on. He drafted their 6th-round draft choice, who was
Right.
probably 5th on the depth chart at the time of our draft. He drafted him. Now he looks like he's going to be a starter.
Mr. Dillon,
And
I mean,
Mr. Dillon
the
Munch
champion
is
from
the
our league.
champion.
And this just goes to show, Dillon, Zach's friend, is one of the nicest guys I've ever met.
Well,
And nice guys, they have good karma.
He just whooped me.
Yeah.
So,
And you know what? I think I went to look for Gainwell
and
a
it was-
week ago, and I
and
found the same thing because
Dillon has him.
because he's good in PPR and he's on the rise. So Dillon, nice pickup there, Zach.
Never-
He'll
he never
never
heard
listen
of
to
him.
this.
Come
But
on.
yeah, but if you talk to him, Zach, let him know he's on the rise, and if he takes over and gets the passing work, he's kind of a gadget guy. Look out for Gainwell, everybody.
We're all getting jerseys. That's all I know.
Yeah.
Stones, do you have one more? Or are we done?
We
here?
have one more.
All right, one more for you.
One
Ken.
more. This will be a quick one because you did touch on this last week, I believe, in another question. This is a question against Josh Jacobs versus Chris Carson. Now, I know you guys had already talked about Chris Carson a little bit. I don't know how much you talked about Josh Jacobs, and with his injuries coming back, and it does sound like Chris Carson now might have a bit of a neck thing going on.
Right.
So, Mr. Guru.
Good question.
Yeah, and I think I forget we had a question last week: Chris Carson versus Mike Williams. Right?
I believe so.
Yeah, and so when I saw Chris Carson, I thought he would struggle against the Niners, and he did. He came out, and I watched it happen, and it was shocking. But he didn't do anything, and then the river dancer, Alex Collins, he's a river dancer, an Irish dancer. We call him the river dancer, or Lord
River
Flatley.
Dancer and Smoochie get together. We got a real
I call him
problem.
Lord Flatley.
This
Anyway,
is great.
he's a dancer on the field too, and he was sprightly, and he's dancing all around.
What is the matter with you?
Scoring all these fantasy points, and Carson I think he got 4 points. I'm like, I gave the right advice. Yes, Williams is going to kill on Monday night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was right. Carson only had 4 points. Williams came out and gave you 1 point.
1.5.
Yeah,
So
1.5.
both of your ones that you had, nobody did good, and
Yeah.
neither one of your choices were good.
And then when
Yeah.
I got here today and I got an injury update about Chris Carson, neck. He did not practice today.
Okay.
And maybe that had something to do with it. I think the Niners' defensive line front also had something to do with it. But I don't like your other option either.
Josh Jacobs.
Yeah, he looked better to me last night. Like, he looked spry, and he got some catching work. The one thing I will say about Josh Jacobs is in the games the Raiders win, he's usually pretty good for fantasy.
Gotcha.
At least good for Josh Jacobs. So I forget. Do you remember who they're playing this week? I don't know if you have it
yeah,
handy.
actually,
Bears, I think.
I do have it right here.
I
So,
think
yeah,
you're
they're
right.
playing Chicago, and
Is it-
Seattle is home versus the Rams,
Yeah.
Thursday night, I think.
and Vegas is home versus Chicago.
And again, we're going to do these start-sit questions, but it's really early in the week on Tuesday, and some of this may change. If I ever give advice and I know the person, I think Zach, I send him a text, that it changed from what I told him on the show, and I let him know. But
This one's a tough one because
This
you have
one's tough.
one game starting on Thursday
Yeah,
night.
Thursday
yeah,
night
and
game.
who's Thursday? You said Carson versus
That's
Rand?
Chris Carson.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would not. Either way, I would start Jacobs.
Yeah.
I don't think he's in danger of missing. His backup Peyton Barber is now on the injury report. He may not play again, so Jacobs' role should be solid. Kenyon Drake seems to be dropped off the face
He's
of the
gone.
earth, even when Peyton Barber was injured.
Yeah.
You know, so I think they're going to beat the Bears. They may not, but if Khalil Mack's
We're not
understand
asking
that.
you to pick games.
I'm just
I
saying-
understand that.
for Josh Jacobs, it really, really makes a difference. I can't
Oh,
hammer
yeah.
this home enough. If you think the Raiders are going to win, more often than not, I would err on the side of Jacobs in a bad decision. So, but even if I didn't think they were going to win, I would probably go Jacobs here, just because Chris Carson, you're not going to know till right before, and if he's limited and re-aggravates that neck and out he goes, you're not going to be happy. And that Rams defense against the run, no joke.
No joke.
Yeah, in a short week you wouldn't do that. And by the way, Kenyon Drake is now roommates with Cortland Sutton. Nobody can find either one
Yeah.
of them. Thank you, Stones McCoy. Thank you, Kenny Parker. That is our show for today. Just one reminder. Well, a reminder, we're back here next Tuesday at 6 o'clock, of course. But a reminder, Friday, the return of the Stones and Toys Show, Episode 2. I heard the first episode was horrible, and I heard it was fantastic.
I
So
liked it.
your normal group was just out there, Stones. It's the same thing you usually do.
Yeah.
But check them out at 5:30 on the Stones Radio Network. That's the Stones and Toy Show. Thanks for checking us out. We'll see you again next Tuesday. And between now and then, have fun with your fantasy.
Good luck, everybody.